Hey, what's up guys? Little man with a big opinion here. And in today's video, I've got a multitude of items in front of me that, to put it quite simply, I couldn't get everything inside of this video. Uh, but we're going to talk about items that, as a prepper, uh, are more likely going to pop up in a barter scenario than other items. But I will preface the video in saying, in a grid down situation, anything and everything you have can turn into a barter item. Some of the things I'm talking about in this video, there will be pros and cons with bartering with those items. And then some things they might lose their taste or their spice with certain people. And it's something that you never know what's going to be the hot item until it's the hot item. So I think I've got 10 or 15 different things on the list that I'm going to talk about. I'll give the pros and cons as I go down the said list that I have on my computer. And at the end of the video, if I come up with a couple more things, I'll kind of throw them in there as well. So the number one item, which we use every day right now, is our fiat money. And so, it specifically says on the money, this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. So, a couple $100. And any prepper knows you should have some cash on hand in case, either your card doesn't work, they can't accept it because of some sort of grid down situation. And this is what most people will probably accept in the early stages, with kind of a hope that society goes back to normal and what they traded for, they'll be able to use that currency when things get back to normal. That being said, that's also one of the first things that will most likely go away. I'm not saying a new currency won't take its place. I think the big one that people talk about is using bottle caps because of the video game Fallout, but that's what we use as currency now. It'll be used in the beginning, and it's a good idea to have some of that on hand. The next thing that I believe would be, shortly after the fiat currency becomes useless, is going to be your gold and silver. So, got American Silver Eagle here, got some junk silver. I specifically lot mine out in 1 ounce increments. That way, if I buy and sell more of it, I can kind of keep track of how much I have. And some people will say that, gold silver has been traded for, hundreds of years and several thousands of years. We'll always use this stuff. But what I've heard a lot of preppers talk about is you can't eat your silver, so I'm not stocking up on that. But I have this for other investment purposes, and I enjoy the coins, and it has benefited societies in the past when their currency became hyperinflated or people just didn't trust their currency as much. And then after that, if people stop accepting fiat, they stop accepting gold and silver, then everything else I'm going to talk about just kind of falls in different levels of priority. So, one of the big prepping items that people were kind of losing their minds on last year and some of this year is, I put it too far away from me, is this stuff. Just good old-fashioned toilet paper. Nowadays, it seems like any type of situation where people think, stores are going to be closed and they can't go anywhere. This is one of the first items that disappears, one of the first items that gets limited, and some preppers have called it the white gold. Most people in the United States would probably agree. If you don't have stuff to wipe your behind, then there's no point in continuing anyway. So having excessive amounts of toilet paper isn't a bad thing, but it is something that anytime you're trading it, bartering it away, you are taking away from your stash, so plan accordingly with that. Similarly with most of these other items I'm going to talk about. The next prepper doomsday thing that people think everyone's going to trade is their ammo. The obvious con to that is it's what fuels your firearms, that protects your family, feeds your family, and you're potentially supplying someone that will cause more harm to you than good. And most preppers say, don't trade your ammo. But, if you traded a box of ammo for, 2 or 3 days worth of food and you had no food, then obviously you thought that trade was worth it. So, ammo is on the list. Just talked about the cons of it. The pros of it is a lot of people will want ammo, and as long as you think you have enough to hand out to get supplies that you might have been lacking in, by all means, you can use that. The next thing I'm going to talk about is going to be food and water. So let's just grab an empty canteen and a jar of rice. Surprisingly, the calories in this jar of rice would probably, get you a fairly good trade. Now, on the water side, number one thing to sustain life, you can't live for very long without it. So, giving someone water could be, the start of a very good relationship with that person. And as a prepper, you should have ample amounts of water storage, so it shouldn't be, a difficult thing to give away. Now, I think obtaining the water and having the stuff to purify it is less of an issue than being able to store it. So maybe let them drink water and save your bottle. I don't know. But food and water would be very closely behind the ammo for me, because you run out of food and your situation becomes dire very quickly. But I'm not just limiting it to, your staple foods, rice, beans, corn, stuff like that. Other things in the food category that people will most likely want to trade their items for your stuff will be more of the comfort foods. So here's a jar of instant coffee. I did the math on this one time. This is about 2.5 months worth of coffee, having your 1 cup a day. Some people will need that caffeine. It'll be, the thing that keeps them sane, keeps them going. And coffee can be a very, valuable asset in a grid down situation. And then the other two things I grabbed, kind of rounding off the food category, is going to be sugar and salt. I've talked about their many different uses and, why it's good to store this kind of stuff. For the coffee, at least, I don't like my coffee just straight black. I will drink it just straight black, but the sugar is a must-have on top of that. And the salt will make any of your wilderness meals taste a lot better. I'm not limiting the spices to salt. Obviously, pepper, and any of your other spices will make your otherwise bland meals a lot more tolerable. So having excess amounts of these and being willing to trade some of this stuff is a good thing. I'm actually thinking about upping my salt storage because I used to live on the coast. I made sea salt a couple times. It tasted all right, and I just kind of slacked on that because I had an ample supply of it. And then the last thing in the food category that I'm going to talk about for this video is going to be candies, specifically hard candies, because they have the longest shelf life. And these are just, butterscotch, sugar-free, and like I said with the coffee, a little bit of, life before SHTF could be what gets someone through the day. And sugar and sweets, in my opinion, will be something that not a lot of people know how to make, and having stores of a comfort item like that could become its own form of, gold in a post-apocalypse situation. Next two things I'm going to talk about, I just grabbed an old bottle of vodka. It's one of the little shooters. And then I've got a little bit of my tobacco that I picked up from Wisconsin for my pipe. I'm not limiting it to vodka or tobacco. Some people would say they need to store up other drugs, other liquids, beers, rum, scotches, whatever is your taste. I would say store what you enjoy, because if you go out of your way to store a bunch of stuff that you don't like and people don't want to trade that, then you're not getting a benefit out of it and other people are getting a benefit out of it. I don't do anything higher than, pipe tobacco, except for cigars occasionally. So more comfort items. A lot of these things I've talked about are comfort items. They're not a necessity to survival. Once you store up past the year mark in, calories and protein, that's when I would say start seriously adding on the comfort side of prepping. Let's get all this stuff out of the way. I guess I should have talked about it when I talked about ammo, but other firearm accessories, spare magazines, gun cleaning stuff, and, at the top of the list, firearms could be, pretty big ticket items for prepping, in my opinion. Like I said with the ammo, if you gave away your firearm for a good or a service, then you're potentially, arming someone that will do you harm, and you're taking away one of your abilities to defend yourself. Oh yeah, I forgot. Pulled out a knife. That could be a good barter item. Let's see. I've gone down everything on the list except for the last two. So the next one could be a comfort item. This is as far as my prepping has gone in this area, and that is a battery bank. I do plan on upping my renewable energy capacity. I would really like to have the ability to keep my mini fridge running for insulin purposes, but as of right now, I got a bunch of these battery banks. I'm going to plug it back in and let it keep charging. But, allowing someone to charge up their radio, or, a laptop, that's how they have their, movies to keep kids entertained or something, could be a valuable asset. I'd really like to expand upon that to be able to say, I've got this solar system. You can use it for a few hours and charge up your stuff, but I want X in return. And then tied into that, I put shelter kind of with it. I don't know how I had it tied in, but I had it tied in the notes. But being able to provide a safe place for people to rest and recoup to continue on their journey. I've got plenty of, cots, air mattress, sleeping area. Um, the big downside to that is you could be potentially letting someone in, um, breaking, security or something like that. But I kind of tend on the side of, you know, you're offering someone a safe haven, so hopefully they won't, do you harm. And then the last one that I put on this list, which, is potentially up there with the food, ammo, water, and potentially the silver, is I just have skills. Uh, many preppers talk about, you need to learn how to start a fire, you know, process and clean what you caught or hunted or trapped. You need to be, first aid, CPR, have these different medical trainings. But at the same time, if you are a carpenter and you're really good at it, that skill could be, well used. In a grid down situation, the rebuilding of society, eventually you will get past the point, hopefully, of having to trade items uh, for a good or service. I keep saying good or service. It could be your service. In the old days, if a town, let's say they needed a sheriff, someone who had that law enforcement training could literally be rolling into town. They're like, hey, you used to be a marshal. We want you to be our sheriff and we're going to pay you. Or our blacksmith died. You're a blacksmith. Here's his shop. Here's his tools. And, the town is providing work for you and they will compensate you. And eventually, you will probably get back to some sort of currency, whether it's gold, silver, they start printing money again. And life, tends to try to go back to normal in that situation. For a while, skills could be you helped someone, plow a field. They let you sleep in the barn. They feed you that night. They'll advance to you do something for someone and they give you silver. They give you a gun. It's kind of hard making this video because until a situation like that happens, when something is traded or bartered, you'll never know the full value of what you're trading, and every single transaction is going to be different. You trading a full AR magazine to one guy for 2 days worth of food could be, employment with another guy. You providing a bottle of liquor for one person could be, 5 AR magazines full of ammo. Every situation will be different, and that's why it's difficult to make this video because there's no concrete, way of doing things. Even, taking this $20, fiat bill. One gas station is going to charge $2 for a soda, and another could charge $1.75. So, as a prepper, in planning for this, know what your items are worth to you. And if it comes time for you to have to trade that item for something else, it's completely up to you on getting the other person to value your item at the same price or at least at some minimum. And with that, I've talked about everything I have on my desk. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If a friend or family member would get information, maybe a little enjoyment out of it, then share the video with them and subscribe, because I'm going to keep making videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.